the Republican presidential primaries were held on the Internet, it's very likely that Republican Congressman Ron Paul would get the nomination. The name Ron Paul is the most searched term on the blogging website Technorati. His campaign website gets more hits by far than any other Republican candidate, and he has more friends than any other Republican candidate on the social networking website MySpace. In the real world, another thing, he is stuck firmly among the lesser-known candidates. Can he turn that Internet popularity into a viable shot at the presidency? Congressman Paul is on the phone from Sioux City, Iowa. Congressman, thanks for joining us today. Have you been surprised by the success that you've enjoyed on the Internet? And did you know what MySpace was before you found so many new friends?
Well, I am surprised, but very pleased, and I knew the message was very powerful. I had no idea about how the Internet worked in detail. I'm a user of the Internet, but MySpace and Facebook and all these other activities that are going on and the meetup groups, no, I had no idea, but I don't think anybody else quite realized how spontaneous something like this could be, because I think there's already over 600 meetup groups have spontaneously popped up around the country. So it's an organization that has been a grassroots, spontaneous organization rather than something that we have organized. Of course, we find out where they are, and they become our organization and our supporters. So it's, in a way, a bit of a miracle that has happened.
Now, to translate that miracle into actual votes is a challenge. We saw what happened to Howard Dean. How can you learn lessons from what happened to his campaign and make sure that you have greater success?
Well, I think our message is quite different and more powerful, and is a strong anti-war, pro-liberty message, and pro-free enterprise, and pro-American and pro-Constitution, and it's attracting young people. But I think the Internet is even more sophisticated than it was than 3 or 4 years ago, so things are changing all the time. But I think you're absolutely right. We have a ways to go. We have to translate that tremendous support we have on the Internet into real votes, and we may learn about that this Saturday, whether we have been able to achieve that. So that is the ultimate vote. Even though this is a straw vote, it's important. Ultimately, it's the primaries that count. We know the numbers are out there, and they're willing, and they come out when we have rallies. Generally, a rally that we put together, we get over 1,000 people, so they will respond. But we have to prove ourselves and have them respond at the polls as well.
Let me just briefly share with you some information that was just filed by our own Courtney Kuby at the Pentagon, which is that we now have more troops, 162,000 troops on the ground, the highest level of U.S. forces since the start of the war. This is partly, of course, because of the surge and because there is a transition among brigades, some coming in, some going out. But what does this tell you, though, about the strength of the anti-war movement, which is clearly propelling your candidacy and a number of the Democratic candidates as well? Is there any way for an anti-war candidate to change policy when you're not commander-in-chief? The U.S. Congress has not been able to change anything on the ground.
No, you'd think Congress would have gotten the message after last year's election. The Republicans have heard the message, but they don't change their policies for the most part. The Democrats got the message, and they're playing games. They will not remove the authority, and they will not defund it. That's what our responsibilities are. We're not supposed to be, under the Constitution, micromanaging troop movements and say, well, move troops here and there and have so many on this month. We have a responsibility, and it has to do with authority and money. And we shouldn't have put him there. It was a serious mistake. We should exert that authority. But this is just going to make the people even angrier and upset, and that's what we're running into. So I still think that the large majority, sometimes 70, 80% of the American people now are expressing themselves. They've had enough of it, and they want to change it. And my appeal isn't just to micromanage the war or say that it's mismanaged. The policies are wrong. It's the policy of foreign intervention that has gotten us into this trouble over and over again in my lifetime, and in the last 50 years or so we've been fighting numerous wars, and we lose our men, we spend our money, we're bankrupting our nation. At the same time, we never follow the law, and the law says you can't go to war without a declaration. So merely we should respect our oath of office and never go to war without a declaration, and we would avoid these kind of problems.
Well, thank you so much, Ron Paul. Congressman Ron Paul.
The purpose of government is to protect the secrecy and the privacy of all individuals, not the secrecy of government. The freedom message brings us together. It doesn't divide us.
Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you.